You talking about John Stewart?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, they just cast Fillion as, like, you know what I mean? Like, I see things.
Wait, he got cast as who?
He got cast as Hal, but, like,
He
the
did.
older Hal that's, like, retired, and it looks like they're kind of doing that, where they're gonna layer it a bit.
Really?
Look at
I still live in Tucson. What's wrong with Tucson? There's one gay bar and it's full of college kids. One of them asked me if I was Tyler Perry.
I mean, Tyler Perry lives in Atlanta, right?
Welcome, everyone, to the Awards Tour podcast. I'm Jacqueline Coley. We're here for our interview portion with an Emmy, SAG, and Golden Globe winner. He is, of course, Mr. Sterling K. Brown. Many of you know him from his incredible performance as Randall Pearson on This Is Us. We're here to talk to him today about American Fiction, where he plays a character I think I've been waiting my entire career to see you play.
Really?
It was so incredibly perfect. But I do want to start here because this movie has already won the audience prize at the Toronto Film Festival.
Yeah.
But more than that, I do think it sort of caps off this interesting sort of like 5-year period with you, where I think after all that crying they made you do on This Is Us, you made a conscious effort to just have some fun between, like, you know, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I mean, even something like Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, Artemis, like Hotel Artemis, all these things I feel like you were just like, I have to do something different with my time outside of the show. Was that true?
I think so. I mean, you can only make people cry so much before you start to wonder, like, am I doing a good thing? Do I need to bring balance to the force? Because I know I'm humorous, that I have a sense of humor, and I like to share that with people as much as I love to share my sense of pathos with people, right? And I think even if you pay attention to Randall, he's pretty funny too. Sometimes his funny comes out of a place of pain or a desire to be wanted or needed and, like, make himself bigger so that he doesn't feel as if someone can discard him, right? But, like, sometimes it's just good to make people laugh. It's good to allow people to release. And that release can happen through tears. It can happen through laughter. I'm sure many other ways, but those are the two that I know we tend to elicit in terms of this art form. And I love when folks come up to me and they say, like, dude, that was really funny.
I think the thing that folks really saw where you really leaned into that comedy that I loved was SNL and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like, those two moments seem so singular in their efforts, but when I was getting ready to do this interview, that was the thing that a lot of people talked about, if they didn't mention This Is Us.
Thank you very much. Yo, I can't. SNL was a blast.
Yeah.
And it's a word, too, because I think the secret of anybody that does it, they make you so tired that by the time you're at Saturday night, you're like, okay, let's just go. Let's just make it happen. Like, literally, you're saying lines and you finish, a woman grabs your arm, pulls you off stage, and people just start undressing you and putting clothes on. You're like, all right, go. And you're like, okay, where are the cue cards? But that sort of energy, because it's like being on stage or whatnot, you get sort of caught up in the energy, in the audience, et cetera. And knowing, like, you can just feel the spirits of everybody else that has been on that stage throughout history. It's like, God dang, I get to be up here where Eddie was. You know what I'm saying?
Not
Big
too long
Will.
after that again, you know?
Yeah. So it was awesome. And I appreciate you saying that I was funny. Thank you.
No, I mean, it was a great moment because, like, when I looked at American Fiction, the reason why I said it was a role that I was hoping that you would play, because this character, and granted, I will say this, it's part of a larger story, and but when he shows up, he just steals every scene, and it's partially because, yes, he's funny, but also there is a pain and a soulfulness that is masked in it, and it's like, it was the perfect balance of the two. Whereas I felt Randall's more serious with some funny, or some other ones are really funny and not as serious. This was that perfect sort of like 50-50 split.
Thank you, JC. I appreciate it.
So talk about this character, and was that on the page that way for him to be that duality?
I think so. At least that's what I saw when I read it, right? I saw someone who was middle-aged, who was in the closet, who just blew up his life after 20 years of marriage, being caught in bed with another man, and was in the midst of finding what authentic expression felt like on him, right? And I think to a large extent that means being messy until you know how to be neat in a new way. Because being neat and inauthentic didn't work, right? Trying to conform to other people's perceptions of who he should be didn't work. And so now he's a bit of a hot mess.
And I'm going to go ahead and say, ladies, key emphasis on the word hot. Check the trailer. Check the trailer. Check the trailer.
I appreciate that. But a bit of a hot mess in search of what it looks like to be neat, but authentically so. You know? Like, from what I understand about human nature, and this is me right now at 47 years old, real happiness isn't a possibility unless you're really willing to be yourself, whether other people accept you or not. And I think in youth, the desire to be accepted sometimes supersedes the desire to be authentic. To fit in, we are willing to twist ourselves in multitudes of knots. And even though we know we're triangles, we're trying to fit into the square peg, right? And you will do whatever it can to fit in there. And then at a certain point, you're like, oh, this just doesn't fit, right? And you have to be willing to endure the contempt or the unacceptance of other people to just be like, well, the number of that are given just dwindle to the fact that, like, you know, life experience has taught you that being any other way doesn't work, right? And I think we're in the midst of seeing Cliff sort of figure out what that new equilibrium is for himself.
Yeah, and he does it with such a pain, but also such a humor. Like, he literally makes me cry the first tears of the movie and the biggest laughs of the movie. It's absolutely right there. The thing that's also there, and I would have to imagine it was a huge part of why you signed on, and also something you probably want to discuss with Cord before signing on, is it definitely speaks to almost a meta existence within our industry and something that you've had to fight for. Just as any Black actor, I think James Baldwin said, to exist as a conscious Black man is to be in a constant state of anger because of and Hollywood does that as well. Was there something about you that wanted to explore that sort of idea of like, let me laugh at this thing that obviously I am sure you've had to deal with at every chapter of your career?
Yeah. Listen, it is... What I enjoy about the script is that he's talking about the limiting perceptions that cinema has had of us historically, and how that those limiting perceptions can lead to how people see us in life, right? To the point where if they see someone who's not like that in life that they've seen on cinema, they'll say, oh, you're not real Black. You're different than the others. Like, you're really smart. You know what I mean? Like, you don't talk like, you know what I'm saying? And they say, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're like one of us. And I'm like, no, I'm still one of them. And being one of them just looks like more than what you've seen. Yeah. Right? And the other part of that is, too, sometimes we have to take our own sort of accountability in terms of how we voted with our dollar in terms of the types of stories that get seen, right? We will say as a community that we want like a wider breadth of expression, right? And I remember being younger, things like an Eve's Bayou, which I thought was absolutely beautiful.
Casey Lemons.
Casey Lemons, shout out, but did not necessarily get like the box office love that I think that it deserved. And then the next DMX flicks, shout out to DMX, who has one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in Top 5.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Chris Rock's Top 5, where he goes around and asks all the actors their top 5 rappers.
Yes, but did you know DMX's scene when he has to that right there?
Yes. You got a minute? Yeah. Check this out. Smile though your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. Smile through the pain and sorrow. What?
But I'm saying, like, earlier on, like, those movies would do huge or whatnot. And I'm like, but people would say, we want to see this too. We like that, but we want to see this too. And anytime this too came out, people didn't necessarily vote with their dollar in the way that I think that they could have. I'm hoping in 2023, 2024, people are of a new mind and being like, you know what? If it's something that I want to see, I have the power to have some sort of influence on it by going to see it. because if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like it has to cross over into a mainstream sort of thing in order for these studios to be like, you know what? This makes money. Like it's not just great storytelling and it's not just for that community, it's great storytelling for the world.
And it's just good business. Yeah.
It's good business.
I think one of the things that this one has already done, because it has won countless audience awards, I think we've got at least 3 counting, starting with TIFF, which is a pretty good marker of Best Picture. So I'm sure you've heard that before.
I've heard that.
But I think you can already sort of say that with it, because the thing I loved about it is suburban Black kids get their day in this movie in a way. And I feel like your St. Louis roots, Cord, sort of Boston roots, that's a synergy too. Because look, there are some people whose adolescence looked more like the Cosbys in comparison to Good Times. And they haven't really had that representation since the Cosbys.
Right. Listen, you can say Blackish kind of gets there.
It gets there, yeah.
You know,
but that's like the highest level of rich suburban Black kid.
They're pretty high. Like I would say the Black Pearsons have like a little bit more of a sort of middle road there. But it is like I get tired. You're talking about how racist it is when people say you're not real Black or whatnot, and things that I would hear towards the beginning of my career in terms of like he's got to kind of lose that intelligent thing or what have you, as if to be that meant that I wasn't being Black, right? I think we are learning to see ourselves in a wider breadth, like not just them seeing us, but us seeing us, right? And being able to define Blackness in a way that is much more generous. And I said this before, I think who's a comedian from Insecure?
Amanda Sealy.
Amanda Sealy was like the only way of being not Black is being anti-Black.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, that works for me. That works for me.
That works for me.
If you're trying to tear down your community, I don't need you in the community. Like, other than that.
We can draft another.
You know what I'm saying? Other than that, if you want to go fly fishing or, you know, Jeopardy or whatever it is, like, come on, bring it.
I really do love this about Cord too, is he's a television person. For folks that don't know, he worked on Succession, he worked on The Leftovers, he worked with, you know, a ton of really, he worked on Watchmen, won Emmys. He also assembled an incredible group of, I think, stellar television actresses to support in this. From Leslie Uggams, people don't know, she was the very first Black woman to have a variety special.
Correct.
You're the very first Black man since however long to win for Best Comedy.
Right.
Like, I think it was like 70 or 33 years, something crazy like that, since the last Black guy won for that. I think that had to like weigh in on the set, because this ensemble, Erica, also Alexander from Living Single, it was just such a powerhouse. And of course, Tracy, we can't even like diss on that.
No.
It had to, did you feel it when you guys were filming this one? Because I felt it watching it.
Yeah, I think I felt it. I think it's something I've also hungered for. Like, oftentimes these great ensembles don't get a chance to get together because somebody's ego says like, oh, I'm not gonna be second billing to whomever or whatnot. Like, I think I almost had a chance. I was almost in The Harder They Fall, but then COVID happened.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't get a chance to be a part of that. But I love seeing like a group of us play together, right? Because a lot of my career has been being the Black guy.
Yeah.
Oh, who's the Black guy in that? Oh, that's Sterling? Who the Black guy in that? Oh, yeah, Jeffrey. Like, it's nice when, like, the Black guys and the Black girls all get a chance to get together and play in the sandbox together.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
And it's rare, man. It really is rare. So it's great to have one that has been this successful so far, just with like both the critical acclaim. Soon folks are going to get a chance to see it in theaters. All right, now real talk. We've been talking for a few years. I've been covering you for a while. And I've never felt as jealous as I did watching you and Sean. Like, I literally felt like I was watching an ex with his new girlfriend. Like, it hurt a little bit, because I was like, they got chemistry too? Okay. Well, like, but I've now learned that may be bigger than an Oscar for you. Like, that literally is like literally something that you have dreamed about. I'm just now beginning to realize that like it may be like your wife, kids, and Hot Ones.
Hot Ones. So I'm gonna tell you about friends of mine have been watching it for a while, and they're like, "Bro, you got to go do Hot Ones." I was like, "What's the big deal, right?" So then you go down the rabbit hole and you watch them, and you wonder like, what's it gonna be like when I eat the wings? Like, how's it gonna feel? Like, I'm a man. I can do this stuff, right? But then you start eating them wings, and that it hit different. It hits real different, and you feel drunk. And you find yourself saying stuff that you never say. But it's like you just took down a fifth of whiskey or something. You're like, I'm just awful hotness. Off some hot, like he was insane.
And I remember it was Wing 7, you're like, I feel drunk.
Yeah. It was, but like listen, it's not just Sean too. I just want to say that.
No.
He got crew.
Yes.
People are doing background and whatnot, and I appreciate that they ask things that don't always get asked. But man, it is such a surreal feeling to be doing. It's like patting your head and rubbing your belly at once, right?
Yeah.
So you can't be jealous.
No, I was
because it's a slightly different thing.
It's a very different thing. I can be jealous of it also too, because like I love Hot Ones too. Like I watched it when it was just rappers. Like I remember like early days. You know what I mean? And that was so I'm a huge fan of it. And he asks good questions. I'm a fan of anybody that asks good questions.
Right.
Like at least respect the art form, and he definitely does.
For sure.
I'm gonna like throw this one out there too, because I feel like you're at a really great time where you're just doing what you want.
Yeah.
But you're also like still like working and open to everything that there is to be done. And I remember, man, and it's been a while since you talked about this, but there's a new person over at DC. And
are you talking about John Stewart?
I mean, I'm just saying, like they just cast Philly and is like, you know what I mean? Like I see things.
Wait, he got cast as who?
He got cast as Hal, but like the older Hal that's like retired, and it looks like they're kind of doing that where they're gonna layer it a bit.
Really?
Look at
Listen, I watched that Justice League cartoon religiously in like high school, college, right after, etc. It was dope. Seeing John Stewart, knowing that there was a Black Lantern was something like in terms of representation-wise, it was like, oh man, there's a space for me in this world, and I see it, right? And when I would look at him, I'm like, kind of look like this cartoon. You know what I'm saying? Listen, if it could happen, that would be legitimately exciting. Like that would be one of those giddy-inducing moments in life, because my kids would sort of get it, like without me having to explain it to them. Like most of the stuff I do, I have to explain. Yeah, Daddy's doing the movie. It's a big deal. Yeah. They're like, okay, it's not a big deal to me. Like my kids is like, yeah, this is us, great, woohoo. Like, it doesn't care, but like that would be. Also, like, look, I'm in Invincible right now.
Yes.
I can't even really tell because like Invincible is.
I was like, you can't show that to your kids. I was
12 and 8.
I was just about to ask you about Invincible because
the 12-year-old maybe. One time I was watching The Boys, and he goes, what are you watching, Dad? I said, I'm watching a TV show called The Boys. And he's like, can I watch it? I was like, you can give it a shot. And this black dude got his arm just like hit, and the car removed. He's like, yo, what are you doing? Like, what are you? I was like, all right, clearly you're not ready for The Boys. Yeah. I gotta come back a little bit later. But John Stewart, that's, maybe I have to talk to somebody.
You gotta give James a call. It's funny that you mentioned Invincible too, because you can't really talk about that one. They're right in the middle of your season, and your character is, we don't know. Like literally, like you're gonna have to keep this one a secret for you. But can you preview anything that you can tell us about your character? Because right now, from what folks have seen, they've only seen like 4 episodes, and it's like right in the middle of a cliffhanger. There's a lot.
Angstrom Levy, he's got a big head. I had to learn how to do that. Internalize. His head winds up outside of his body. It's funky. I tell you what's fun about doing these voiceover things in cartoon is because they'll show you like the animation or show you like ideas of what the animation is going to look like. And so they sort of come close to who you are as a person. Like my man's always got his goatee or whatnot. I'm like, that's cool. And then when I showed his brain outside his head, you're like, ow, I can't do that in real life. So it's like, there's a voice that you start to explore that's slightly different than your own, because there's a physical manifestation that you're not capable of in life that you can now be capable of in animation, and it's exciting, right? It's also, I'm always talking about being a bad guy. Like I like the idea of being a bad guy, and he's a bad guy who's not always bad, kind of Killmonger-esque in that way. And so there's complexity to him, and you can't just outright vilify him, because every once in a while he'll land with a point and you'll be like, oh. Like Thanos was like, this world is too big. And sometimes I go, Thanos might be right.
You're stuck on the 405 on the wrong day. You
know
think
what I'm
Thanos
saying?
was right.
Talk to me, JC. It's real.
I'm so glad. It's like you're reading my mind, because I felt very bad with you on the initial Black Panther run.
Yeah.
Because you were in it and couldn't say nothing, even after it came out.
This is true.
That had to be one of the weirdest situations. You're in one of the biggest movies on the planet.
Yeah.
But in the effort to not spoil it,
Right.
you really don't get to have a moment with what ends up being such a pivotal character in later chapters of this entire movie.
Yeah, and Jobu, you know, he was an important part of the plot, but they wanted to keep it a secret. I think being on This Is Us for the many years, I was like, I know how to keep a secret. Because Fogelman is real serious with his secrets too. And you don't want to get on the wrong side of the MCU. I mean, DC, MCU, you go show up to work.
Yeah.
They give you your sides for the day, and then they take that back. If you did forget to give it to them, there's a young, blonde girl of 26 years of age. She's like, that's okay, I'll wait outside here until you get it. And you're like, you're gonna sit there like children of the corn until I give you these pages. She's like, it's fine.
That is her, because that's on her. She can't walk back there with nothing in her hand.
And then you go and you look in your room and you're like, oh, I found her. She's like, thank you so much. I'll see you later. She's like, gone. So in terms of just keeping things under wraps, you understand how important it is, and you don't want to be the one that lets the cat out of the bag.
Fair.
Right? Like, that's the bottom line. I was like, somebody may find out, you ain't finding out from your boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did love to see in the sequel, they put Killmonger in the same place that you were in when he visited you. Just that moment. And I was like, this is like echoes of Joe, like still.
It's good stuff.
It's really great stuff. All right, last question, because I do have to say this, because I really love this about your family. You are a working actor family, like a legitimate one. Both you and your wife are what I consider like television, film, everywhere in between, working actors. How much was the love strengthened or hurt when y'all were sitting at home staring at each other during the strike? Because y'all were like, I don't know if you two have spent that much time.
We had a lot of quality time with these two little children that we have, so that gave us a lot of love. But I think both of us are looking forward to getting back to work. We're gonna do a podcast ourselves, as a matter of fact. So we found a project that I think, besides just our children, which are our mutual project, we have something to pour into. That sort of excites us.
Nice.
So that was born out of it, and hopefully that will be a good thing.
I love that y'all do that. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Anything else you want to shout out? Podcasts. Let us keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, it'll come out sometime around Valentine's Day, and it is tentatively titled, We Don't Always Agree, with Ryan and Sterling.
Oh, I love this so much. All right, folks, be on the lookout for that. Sterling, thank you so much.